Today we're going to look at how to factor trinomials when you have a equal to 1. You guys remember that the standard form for a trinomial is ax squared plus bx plus c. So once again, this value here is going to equal to 1 for today. So how do you factor for trinomial? The big idea when you factor trinomials is you try to find two parentheses that when you multiply or distribute the two parentheses, you guys will get this trinomial back. So we're looking for those two parentheses. So we're going to have some variable here with a number, some variable here with a number, and that's what we need to find. So let's go ahead and try a few examples. So here for the first example, we want to factor, that's factoring the trinomials. The trinomial is x squared minus 9x plus 20. Notice a is 1, and you really have to know which numbers represent a, b, and c. So let me label that for you guys. A is imaginary 1, b is negative 9, and c is positive 20. So when a equals 1, all you do to factor, you are going to take the value of c, which is positive 20. You need to find two numbers that multiply to 20, and at the same time, they do combine to negative 9. So the numbers that multiply to positive 20, and when you combine, will give you negative 9, are negative 5 and negative 4. So you can check when you multiply negative 5 times negative 4, that's going to give you positive 20. And when you combine, when you add the numbers, negative 5 minus 4, I'll put a little arrow over here saying that when you combine, you're going to get negative 9. And you have to check this number is your value b. So let me put a b up here. We're good. We got the middle number. So to write down your two parentheses, which are called binomials, you're going to multiply two binomials. You use the variable that you see. So we have an x here, x over here. You're going to take this number and you're just going to put it inside of this parentheses, minus 5. And you take the second number, which are called factors, factor number 1, factor number 2, and you put it inside of the next parentheses, minus 4. So we do have two binomials. If you use the FOIL method, you guys will get the middle number. I'm not going to do the whole FOIL method, but I'm just going to show you guys. When you multiply x times x, that's going to give us x squared. If you multiply negative 5 times negative 4, that's going to give us positive 20. And look what happens when you multiply the inner terms, negative 5x, the outer terms, negative 4x. So you multiply those two, combine these two terms, and that's going to give us negative 9x, which is the middle term. It's a good idea to check if you get the middle term. You don't have to do it every time, but just to make sure, once in a while, just double check if you get the middle term. So let's try the next one. Now when you factor trinomials, notice that a is 1 for this video, and we do have a negative for a. When you want to factor trinomials, we don't want a negative for a. So when you see a negative here in front of the x squared, first factor out the negative. So here's my negative. I'm going to put a big parenthesis here. When you take out, factor out the negative, you have to change the signs of the trinomial. So this becomes positive x squared. This one plus 5x, change the sign. This one, change the sign, negative 24. So when you factor out the negative, we do have a positive 1a, 5b, and c is negative 24. So we're going to use what's inside of the parentheses to factor. So since a is 1, I'm going to take the value of c, which is negative 24, find two numbers that multiply to negative 4, and they give us the middle term, right? It needs to be 5. So we can use 8 times 3. Now remember that when you multiply, you have to get negative 24. So I'm going to make the 3 negative, because when you multiply 8 times negative 3, that's negative 24. When you combine 8 minus 3, it's going to give us positive 5, which is the B term, this one here. So the next step, remember that negative that we factor out. First of all, you have to bring it down. So there's my negative. I'm going to have my two binomials, two parentheses. I need the variables x, which is what we're using in the trinomial. This one goes in the first parenthesis. This one goes in the next parenthesis, minus 3. And this is our answer. Once again, you can check by multiplying the two terms, the inner, the outer, but we have our two binomials, alright? So we are looking for those two parentheses. If we go back to the left one, same thing. Our answer is actually the two parentheses. So let's try a couple more, right? So first a is 1, so we take the value of c, which is 8. Let me label that for you guys. A, B, and C. So there's the 8. Two numbers that multiply to 8 and give us 6. That's going to be 4 times 2. That's positive 8. 4 plus 2. That's 6. Then you write down your two binomials. So we have an x and an x. Bring down the number, plus 4. Bring down the number, plus 2. And here's the answer. So let's try another one. Now keep in mind we are using q on this one. So a is 1, so all you do, take the value of c, negative 8. Two numbers that multiply to negative 8, and they give us negative 2. So 4 times 2, and you can make the 4 negative. Negative 4 times positive 2, that's going to give us negative 8. Negative 4 plus 2, that's going to give us negative 2. So this is the b value. So once you find those two factors, the two numbers, you write down your parentheses. We are using q, so there's my q. Bring down the number, minus 4. Bring down the number or the factor, plus 2. So here's is my two binomials. I have two more examples, and these ones are special cases. One of them is called the difference of two squares, and the other one is a perfect square trinomials. When you guys have a equal to 1, so let's look at number 3. A equal to 1, and we have no b value. Notice there's no x. We have an x squared, but there's no x. But we do have c, minus c, okay? If you can see, if you guys can check that the number, this one here, c, is a perfect square number. Keep in mind, perfect square numbers are the ones that have a square root, like a whole number, square root. For example, 4 is a perfect square number, square root of 4 is 2. 9 is a perfect square number, square root of 9 is 3. 16 is a perfect square number, 25. 36, 49 is a perfect square number. So 49 is a perfect square number. When you have a minus in the middle, this is called the difference of two squares. I'm not going to give you guys the whole definition of difference of two squares. I'm just going to tell you guys how to factor. So when a is 1, all you do, guys, you need the two parentheses. X becomes x times x. X squared becomes x times x. Since you have a minus in the middle, we need a minus here and a plus over here. And you're going to take the square root of this number. And you put it here. Square root of 49 is 7. 7. This is the answer. You must have, in the difference of two squares, you must have a negative in the middle. If you have a positive, it's not a difference of two squares. Difference means minus. So the plus in the middle is not going to work. You must have a minus. For number 4, perfect square trinomials, that's when a equals to 1 and c, the last number, is a perfect square number. So when that happens, same thing, we use the two binomials. You put a d and a d, which is the variable that we're using. Take the square root of the value of c, which is the last number. Square root of 36 is 6, and 6. Now, when you have a perfect square trinomial, you're not going to have different signs. You are going to use the sign in the middle. So there's the plus and the plus over here. Alright? Two things that I want you guys to check. First, when you have a perfect square trinomial, you must have a plus here. If this is a minus, it's not a perfect square trinomial, you must have a plus. And the second thing is when you multiply the inner, multiply 6d, multiply the outer, 6d, and if you combine the terms, you must get the term in the middle. 12d, 12d, it checks. So I want you guys to check those two things when you have a perfect square trinomial. Sometimes, a few times, it's a little bit tricky. You might think it is a perfect square trinomial, but when you multiply the inner and the outer, you're not going to get the middle term. So it's a good idea to check. Alright guys, I'll see you guys next video.